I couldn't be any more excited right now.
Those hands were filled with poop-stained underwear, which he allegedly smeared on the face of his victim.
Do you realize what percentage of your opening conversations are about bathrooms, Meryl?
Sometimes when you look through the little hole between the stalls, you can see another guy. You should just look him in the eyes the entire time.
I think you have the wrong expectations for what's going to go down here. We're going off the rails here. Maybe football instead.
As always, next year. Happy Leif Erikson Day, everybody. This is our second annual Leif Erikson podcast. Welcome back to the Sandlotcast, our podcast about our uber competitive fantasy football league that no one else cares about. It's also Fire Prevention Day and Moldy Cheese Day, so for all you cheese lovers out there, a little shout out for you.
Who comes up? Who declared it that?
Would you really like to know?
Yeah. Who's such a big fan of moldy cheese that they're like, oh no, this needs a national day, I'm declaring it and putting it somewhere on the internet?
Do you have any moldy cheese in your refrigerator?
No.
Do you need to have moldy cheese to celebrate this day? Every once in a while, we come across a special day that has no apparent rhyme or reason. Today is one of those days, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't celebrate this wonderful and special holiday. Au contraire. Scour through the refrigerator at home and work today for moldy cheese. Office refrigerators are a great place to find moldy stuff. See if that moldy piece of cheese is salvageable and enjoy the day.
This is not answering any of my questions.
Our research did not find the creator of the origin of this day.
See, this was bullshit. This was on Reddit someplace. Oh, it's Moldy Cheese Day.
That complainer there you hear is Hillers, and we've also got Anthony, as always. What's going on, man?
Hey, so quick lightning round for you. Bigger deal, Leif Erikson or Ryan Leaf?
Leif Erikson.
I think it's got to be Leif Erikson, right?
I agree. Yeah. Ryan Leaf sucks.
Leif Erikson, the one guy who did live up to his draft
even today.
I mean, Leif Erikson, he was a low draft pick, and he worked out okay. Yeah.
It's like, what's that, like 300 years old? Yeah. You think people are going to know who Ryan Leaf is in 300 years?
It's not going to be a happy Ryan Leaf day in 300 years.
No day is happy Ryan Leaf day.
No.
Even in the life of Ryan Leaf.
It's always unhappy. It's always unhappy.
Well, so Leif Erikson, wasn't he the guy who discovered Canada, Hillers? Something like that?
Yeah.
All right.
And Tibet.
And Tibet, okay. Yeah. Well, so in the name of Leif Erikson Day and upcoming Columbus Day, we're going to do a little Know Your Explorers trivia.
Columbus Day.
And everybody get ready here. So we're going to start. I'm going to name an explorer, and you have to tell me the place they discovered or were known for exploring. Okay?
Easy.
All right. And just first one to answer gets, cheer from people. Vasco da Gama.
Peru.
Russia.
India is the correct answer.
I was closer.
Russia is actually closer to India than Peru.
Culturally.
But you were both wrong. Christopher Columbus. Go easy.
America.
The Caribbean.
The Caribbean is the correct answer.
That's not true.
Yeah, fuck you. No, like 8 guys discovered it before you did.
It's like the easiest one, man.
Including Leif Erikson. Quit sleeping on this, Anthony.
Hernan Cortez.
Mexico.
Brazil.
Boom. Mexico is the correct answer. Sir Walter Raleigh.
North Carolina.
Greenland.
Top
of the Himalayas.
We'll go North Carolina is good. Virginia was what I saw, but he was known for the Roanoke Island fiasco. He was kind of that guy. Marco Polo.
China.
The pool.
I will accept both answers. Francisco Pizarro.
Italy.
Brazil.
I'm sorry, you misheard me. I actually said Francisco Bizarro. You were thinking of Francisco Pizarro. But
the circus.
Peru is correct. Who said Peru?
I did.
There you go. Good job. He conquered the Incas.
Yeah, fuck those guys.
Yeah.
They suck.
Ponce de Leon.
Found the youth. Oh, no, wait, you never found that. Brazil. No.
Florida. That's where the Fountain of Youth is.
Yeah, it says all the near-death retirees that live there.
All right, 2 more. Sir Martin Frobisher.
Sweden.
Antarctica.
Not close. Greenland is the correct answer.
Ah, other pole.
And the final one here, Amerigo Vespucci.
It's not America, I guarantee that. It's a bunch of Vikings, but America.
Indonesia.
America is the correct answer.
Yeah, but that's a bunch of BS, is what that is.
So, no,
Call it America
believe,
after like the 8th guy that got here.
No, he was the first, and a lot of people believe he was the person that America
the
was
first
named
one,
after.
except for the hundreds of thousands of people that were living here.
He was who America was named after. So, supposedly, allegedly.
Hey, so can we
Makes
talk about
sense.
football now?
Yeah, let's talk about football. Let's get into our team overviews, boys. We're into
let's do more
week 6
trivia.
here. It's pointless trivia that we know nothing about.
We could do a whole new YouTube show. People are gonna love this. You guys are gonna get schooled.
Let's go into our team overviews here, guys. It's weird. So the divisions were really tight. There were 4 games this week out of the
Season is
6
crazy.
that ended up going to Monday night and being decided on Monday night, which was kind of crazy. And it's weird, like all the divisions kind of stayed close to each other points-wise. It was just kind of bizarre.
I definitely consider doing an HSIM, the Troy used to do,
Yeah.
where you would say, it's like it's Monday night, what's going on? But then I was like, no, that's too hard.
It's a lot of work.
Hey, and Mike, to your point there, TDJ is the Week 5 minigame. The minigame this week was Biggest Loser. So the loser that lost by the most points would get the prize. So this week TDJ got the loss, but it was only by 19.2 points, which in the grand scheme of things is pretty close.
Considering someone got beat by 110 in week 1.
Yeah. This might be our closest week ever when you consider that. I don't know. I mean, that's pretty crazy.
Every other game was decided within less than 10 points, except for that.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. All right, well, let's get into it. Let's start with our highest scoring team, which is in the Melon Ballers division, and that is the Sex Cannons, who find themselves at the top again this week.
What a
they
jerk.
put up 133.5 points to PBJ's 125. That brings them to 4-3 into first place in the Melon Ballers division. Anthony, you had some strong comments about this team pre-podcast. Care to repeat those?
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Thank you.
So that he had a pretty devastating injury there with Julio Jones, but a guy like Peyton Manning can make up for that, and 2 other players, for 43 points. 43 points, and that was, it was a high-scoring game, but Peyton's had better weeks than that. So 43 points, I mean, is almost like an average score for Peyton. So he can lose Julio, he can lose Pierre Garçon, and still be winning games.
43 points is his second best scoring week, but he also has a 37, a 30, and a 62.
Right. So Evan's a team that is first place overall in points for on the season, first place overall in the breakdown this season. I mean, Evan's rolling. He's just rolling. And I'm not sure what's going to stop him unless Peyton has a bye week or doesn't play.
Yeah, the Broncos winning the division in Week 12 could stop him. That could really slow him down.
That's true.
It really could.
Yeah.
He would be boned.
But I'll tell you, the objective is to just get in the playoffs, because in the playoffs anything can happen. The good teams, may do poorly. The poor teams may do great, or things will go as expected. So Peyton's going to get him into the playoffs, and then that's all you can ask for.
He could. Evans' running backs came through this week. Ray Rice had been struggling a little bit, and he finally started Fred Jackson over C.J. Spiller. Either one would have been a good start this week. But do you think these running backs are kind of out of their funk now? Do you think he's figured this out?
I don't know about that. I mean, both Ray Rice and Fred Jackson had their best games of the season this week. So I don't know if I'm ready. This is kind of what I expected out of Evans' team all the time. You know what I mean? But I still look at the middle of this lineup and see, both receivers, one of which is now hurt for the season, under 10 points, his flex player under 3 points, and Jermichael Finley still really not doing what we think. So I still view this as a team that's probably a little bit representative of their record. I mean, obviously he's going to do much better, I think, when Crabtree gets back. And if the Skins ever get it together, he's got Garçon to put in there. So they have a ton of opportunity. This is an excellent, excellent team. But I'm going to have to wait a little bit on this running back situation before I really buy into it. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, there's talent
it
there, right?
seems okay. I'm not totally sold yet, because it was both of them their best week, and they did it on the same week.
Yeah, it's weird. His running back situation is kind of just hard to figure out. I mean, there's definitely talent there. He's got both handcuffs, and even the handcuffs are kind of valuable. You know, they each contribute a little bit. So he finally figured out he started the right guy this weekend and paid off. He also got 30 points from his kicker and defense, which is always nice. Those are points you don't always expect to get. So we're gonna do another thing here where you okay there, Hillers? You got somewhere to be or?
No, my phone was making noises and I didn't want to disturb. You know,
Thanks, man.
Yeah, I was trying to.
So
Sure.
we're gonna try to figure out with each team the move they need to make or the trade they need to make to make themselves better. And Anthony, since we started with you on this, why don't you just go ahead? And I'm sure we'll probably all agree on this one.
So
what do you think needs to happen?
So I just want to make a clarification. We're going to say that if you had to trade a player in order to make the team better, which player would you trade, or which combinations of players would you trade, and for what? Correct.
Correct.
If you can do even for what? I mean, it's like there's so many players. You know, it's okay if you name like a position, I would think, rather than a specific person.
So I think that this one's pretty obvious, like you said. I think you try to move Andrew Luck, and I think that you can probably pull a wide receiver 1 and you know, an additional maybe low-end running back or an additional low-end wide receiver, or a top-end tight end along with that wide receiver 1. Maybe not top-end like 1, 2, 3, but maybe, you know, like a top 7 tight end.
I think we can all get on board with that. I think that's good value.
No, I mean, I had a couple of different things to say, though. I mean, it's like, yeah, Andrew Luck
is
an obvious candidate, okay, but there are a couple of other guys on this team that if you wanted to upgrade a starting position, I think you could make some headway there.
Right.
If you wanted to trade a more successful tight end for, say, Michael Crabtree, who might be coming back in a couple of weeks. Opportunity, and it wouldn't necessarily cost him anything because Crabtree's gotten all of 0 points. Of all the teams, this is the deepest one in terms of trade date.
Well, the team, that's fine. I think Luck is the more obvious move. The thing with Crabtree is you got to give it to a team that can absorb that hit, and there's not many teams out there right now because everything's pretty tight. There's not many teams who can give up their top tight end for a guy who might not be back for a few weeks. So
sure, but I mean, maybe you can put him in a deal. What if it was Crabtree and Garcon together?
Maybe. All right, let's go to the other side here. Peanut Butter Jelly Time goes down there to score the second most points this week. Unfortunately, they played the team that had the first most. They have 125 points. They fall to 2-5 into last place in the division, but only 2 games back, and there's 9 games to go, so plenty of time to make up that ground. Hillers, this team put up all these points with Willis McGahee, Justin Blackmon, Cecil Shorts, Alshon
He started
Jeffrey.
2 Jaguars receivers, which seemed like it would have been the worst idea ever.
Yeah.
And boy, am I pissed that I dropped my boy Jeffrey Alshon and still had some of the dredge that I have in my bench. And he's picking up like all the points in the Bears the last 2 weeks too.
Sure is.
This team has some momentum.
Now that Blackman's back for the Jaguars and Jeffrey's getting a lot of targets, do you think this continues for these receivers?
Do I think he can continue to start 2 Jaguars receivers in his starting lineup and get 125 points?
Do you think that they will be startable?
No. I mean, this was a game that he should have won, and he would have been right in there. But no, I don't think this continues. I mean, I think of the players that would continue, I see Phillip Rivers, and I hope not, but probably Alshon Jeffrey. And that's maybe it, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, and he was hurting. I mean, Doug Martin was on a bye week, okay? So
and Vincent Jackson, too.
You know, you're right. And so if he'd had those guys in there, would he have won anyway and been the first scoring team? Yeah, maybe. But, I mean, he can't complain about his scores here. But I feel like this is top end for a ton of these guys, so...
Anthony, do you think this is a fluke?
Absolutely, it's a fluke. And you look at the historicals, you know, this year's scores out of Brett's team when he's at full strength, and he doesn't even put up these kind of numbers. And the reason why is what does almost every single player on this team have in common? They all got a touchdown this week.
At least.
And that is so rare, especially this season. I mean, there have been so few touchdowns in my opinion. I don't know if that even makes sense.
Unless it's a Bronco.
I look at so many teams every week, or at least in the past 3 weeks, and there's just so few touchdowns from your running back wide receiver position.
Yep.
He hit on every single one. So you can't count on that every week. You probably can't even count on half. And if that's the case, Brett's now under 100 points.
Yeah, I think this team is going to depend a lot. This week was a fluke, absolutely. I just think this team is going to depend on his Buccaneers. You know, if Doug Martin and Vincent Jackson can turn it around, if that offense can get going even a little
Go
bit.
Mike Glennon.
Yeah, I think he'll be okay.
I mean, really, that's what you're hoping for.
I will say Ben Jarvis Green Ellis continues to get a lot of carries. He had 19 carries this week to Giovanni's 15.
Why
So,
do they keep doing that?
Well,
It makes no
he performed.
sense.
And Arian Foster, double-digit points again. He continues to produce. And Ben Tate lost a fumble and only got 40 yards. So you're right on with those Hillers. It looks like you're really
I'm telling
really
you,
spot on with
this
those.
is struggling. This is not the number one back you hope for. Still.
So does he start Phillip Rivers or RG3 next week?
Rivers.
Yeah.
I wouldn't think twice about it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I agree.
Even against Dallas, where the Redskins typically do well, I wouldn't think twice about it. I mean, let's see who's
So
Rivers
does
playing
that
next week?
mean?
Rivers is playing the
move-
Colts, which is a solid defense, but not an overwhelming defense. And they clearly are a passing team. He's done whatever he's needed to do to be the guy we all once thought he might have been. And here
Okay.
it is. So, yeah.
Well, what I'll say, I mean, I think this kind of is the same as Evan. The move that Brett needs to make then, I think, is trade one of these quarterbacks for an upgrade at a position, at another position.
Who are you
right?
going to trade?
Maybe
Who are you going to
maybe
trade
tight end.
RG3 for? You could not get value for
No,
either one.
so Hillers, what I think you do is, I mean, Philip, we know what kind of player Phillip Rivers is. I mean, we've seen him in the league for several years now.
Yeah.
This is probably
The high point.
the high point in his
The
career.
high water
I
mark.
think this is probably a sell higher for Phillip Rivers to a guy that needs quarterback.
Yeah,
Aye.
the problem is that the market for quarterbacks is kind of crummy.
There's
right
two
now.
or three teams that have a couple extra players.
Two or three
Like-
teams, but I still don't know if he could get value. I mean, I'm wondering
He
if he
can't.
might do better to trade a guy with a big name and a big salary. You know what I mean? It's,
Like Foster or Martin.
like maybe Martin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
You know,
think
it's
that's a
like
move, too.
the Bucks are not a team that's doing great, but Doug Martin's name still carries a lot of weight around here, and people need running backs.
And that, yeah, he could do that because you still got Ben Jarvis down there, who is a serviceable RB2. I mean, it's not a
Apparently.
great RB2, but you rather him be your
We
flex.
disagree on long-term prospects, but you can't disagree on his numbers. So,
I'm not saying long term. I don't think long term he's the guy. Next year he's not the guy, but this year I think he's a viable start.
well, let me tell you this: Doug Martin is not next year's guy either at $43. The way
He
he's
might not
is.
be. You're right. So, yeah, I mean the quarterback market, quarterback trades are hard to pull off because most, you only need one, except for bye weeks. Most teams anyway, and people want more value for their backups than people can typically offer. So, yeah, okay, let's
So wait,
move on.
so do you think that Brett can pull, say, like a wide receiver 2 for Phillip Rivers?
A good one.
Yeah. Well, like
a
I was
mediocre
offering
one
him,
for Phillip Rivers or a top.
I offered him
tier wide
Julius
receiver.
Thomas for Phillip Rivers last week, actually.
Well,
he
I
didn't
got him
take it.
now.
He didn't take it because he needed him this week for the bye.
He definitely
he
did.
Didn't have a replacement. Rivers didn't put up crazy numbers, but
You know what sucks about Brett's loss is that the Falcons' defense could manage to contain the Jets,
yeah.
who we all thought were the worst team in the league after
Yeah.
preseason.
Well,
If they'd
and
have
Brett
put up
had
even
been
like regular points.
he'd been a little lucky up till now, and he caught a bad break here, so the luck's kind of evening out for him. Let's move on to the next game here. The Chupanee Brace are our next team that we're going to talk about.
The Choop, one of my favorite
Choop.
teams this year.
They win this week, consistent as ever. They put up 94.5 points. They
So
beat
consistent.
Sabertooth Tigers, 89.1. I think they won on Matt Ryan's touchdown that he threw at the end of the game there with
They
like whatever
totally
a minute
did.
left.
It's so exciting.
And that's how he ended up winning. He goes to 3-4 in second place, only one game back from first. And Anthony, we like this team. They've been 94 points or above every week. This is their lowest scoring week of the year, actually.
Good for them.
Nothing new to report on this team, right? I mean,
Well, I mean, this is consistency, like you said, but I guess a good thing about this team is that it's consistency without many touchdowns on this team. 2 passing, 1 receiving, and a defensive touchdown, and that's it. And you still put up 94 points, which I think is, in the grand scheme of things, pretty good. Because that means you're getting consistent yard production from all your other guys. So, keep it up, and this team's rolling. Remember, this was my my 5th real deal team, so I'm still partially rooting for them, except for this week when I played them.
I totally agree. I mean, I think this is a team that all they need to do is make it into the playoffs, and they're one of the scariest teams in the playoffs. Because if this team had managed to get even 3/4 of the touchdowns that Brett's team managed, and it's not like any of these guys don't do that. You know, I mean, I can see MJD, I can see Trent Richardson, Wes Welker, Nate Washington, Tony Gonzalez, any of these guys putting touchdowns up any given week. If they all did it in the same week, it'd be almost Davish, you know, with his 184 point, you know, extravaganza there. I mean, it would be crazy. But you can still win with having, what? How many touchdowns here? 2 for the team? That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know? Oh, I'm sorry, 3, because the Dolphins managed 1.
Well, 18 points from your kicker will help with that, too.
Well, it will, but those things happen. But, you know, it's like this team has proved consistency from a variety of sources, and I don't see why they wouldn't. And it's like, it's not that you can't beat this team on any given week. It's just that it's not terribly likely. It's like it's a toss-up. No matter who they play, this team could play any team in the league, and it'd be a coin flip.
Yeah, you're going to have to put up points to beat them. You know, they've proven that they haven't put up a dud yet. They might, but so far they haven't. And so this is a team.
Yeah,
MJD. They got 86 yards out of MJD for crying out loud.
If 94 points is your lowest scoring week through week 5, I mean.
Yeah, well, the one concern now is the Falcons now without Julio Jones for the rest of the year, and Roddy White now with a hamstring injury. He might miss another game or two. They're saying, you know, now will that hurt Matt Ryan and will that hurt Tony Gonzalez? I mean, that's the next question, right? Because
well, so he's got Clay down on the bench, and Clay I think is probably just as good of a start as T. Gons.
Might be, yeah.
And yeah, I mean you're right about the quarterback, but
I don't think T. Gons is in all too much danger. I mean, he's still going to get his looks, and even if they put Mike Glennon, let's say, in this offense, he'd still be looking T-Gon's way. I mean, he catches that much mostly because he's a matchup disaster. I'm not too worried about T-Gon's. But let me ask you something, Merrill. If we're saying Phillip Rivers is a good guy to trade right now, who on JD's team would you give up for Phillip Rivers?
Well, I don't know that I'd go for Phillip Rivers if
anybody.
It doesn't really upgrade me. I mean, I think the move JD makes. I mean, he made a move for running back. He realized Mendenhall might be going out, and he went for MJD, which isn't great, but he is a starting running back. He is someone who's probably not going to lose his job.
Well, so he was in within 3 points of Mendenhall. It's whatever.
Yeah, I mean, but long term, that was against the Rams, so he had a good matchup. I don't know what the move here is. I mean, I think maybe you try to sell high on Hakeem Nicks. That guy sucks. I hate him so much.
Obviously.
14 points this week, 142 yards. This might be the high point for Nicks. You might try to see if somebody's willing to deal for him, but I don't know what you need. Like you're not going to get a running back in return that you're going to feel confident playing. So
I got a second question, Anthony, and this one's for you. I know you're in the market for a tight end. Would you want Clay on your team?
Absolutely.
And would trade what for him?
Yeah, that's probably the move.
Well, I would definitely take Clay, although not this week because he's got a bye.
So you're saying you don't think he'll score well this week?
I don't. I don't know what I would trade for Clay. But going back to the question about what move would I make, look at Mendenhall and look at Knicks' production. These are guys that you cannot trust week to week. And I've said that about Knicks for a long time. These guys are more erratic, and one thing that I look for on a team is stability. Like, I'd rather have a low, stable producer than a guy who's boom or bust, me personally. So what I might do is
That's a good strategy.
Look to package guys like Knicks and Mendenhall together, because they're both erratic, and try to get something that is like a solid wide receiver 2 or a solid,
better
RB3,
than the sum of their
RB3.
Parts.
You can try, but nobody's going to give you that for those two.
I don't know. I mean, if let's take a guy like Amendola or something.
If you wanted to give me Mendenhall and Knicks for Bilal Powell, I'd totally do that. I'd even throw in another guy.
Well, but that's not the level Anthony's talking about.
Well, he says a number 3 running back. Number 3 running back?
What about for Amendola?
So I would say
maybe.
So you package
Honestly,
both of those guys for a guy like Amendola. I mean, but I guess with Amendola you got that injury, the injury risk. But let's say that there was like an Amendola-like player that's a little bit more stable.
An Amendola-like player that's more stable is a number 1 wide receiver.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, maybe.
That's what makes him number 2 wide receiver.
That's a tough sell. I mean, the thing is, people know about Knicks' history. They know Mendenhall's. They know Andre Ellington sneaking up on Mendenhall for that job.
This is one
I
of
know
those
the Giants are a
teams where
dumpster fire.
he needs to decide whether he wants to gamble or not. You know.
Plus, he's got a wide receiver too, in Antonio Brown down there. I mean, who didn't
sort
play?
of, but yeah, or even Nate Washington, depending on matchups. Even though he didn't do well that well this week, and so. This isn't a team that needs to gamble, but if they want to, they still have a couple of pieces where I think they could maybe upgrade their lineup, but it would not be a sure shot.
All right, we got to move along here. So
let's move.
Sabertooth Tigers, next team. They lose on this. They put up 89.1 points, fall to 3-4 into second place, one game back, tied with the Chupanibres here.
Because that
Hillers,
stupid logo.
Nick is leaking here. He's leaking oil. He's
doing a
little bit, and Vic went down for him. He's got QB issues. He's kind of got running back issues, I think, and he's got AJ Green issues. What's going? I mean,
AJ Green issues are probably among the things he needs
first
to be most worried about.
Fantasy first world problems.
Yes, fantasy first world problem, because AJ Green is not in the top 10 of wide receivers, and that is not what he expected at all.
Right.
You know what I mean? This is a team that needs guys like Jordan Cameron to step up, especially if Nick Foles is now going to be starting in Philadelphia. You know what I mean? Because Kaepernick was already having a bad season. And if they've got injury or quarterback controversy or whatever going on in Philadelphia, that is bad. That is real bad. I mean, that's more bad than Noshawn Moreno was good as a low-value pickup. You know what I mean? And so this is now kind of looking like a mediocre team. None of his running backs that he'd hoped for in Ridley and Miller are panning out. I mean, he's picking up Zach Sudfeld, who I dropped off the waivers in the hopes that pans out, with Gronkowski coming back. I mean, this strikes me as a move of team that is having some real problems.
He's scrambling a little bit. Anthony, is there a move you see here that he should make or could make that might help him out?
Well, let me just, before I get there, let me comment. I don't think the AJ Green thing is an issue. He gets targeted like crazy.
Yeah.
He had his lowest amount of targets was 8, and that happened twice. And otherwise, it's been 13, 14, and 15 the other 3 times.
Yep.
His touchdowns will come. I wouldn't worry about it. Cobb is great. Jordan Cameron, you say, he needs to step up. He's only the 3rd best tight end in the league. He had 1 off day.
No, I'm just saying that's who he needs to score if he wants to win.
Right. And then a Moreno, man, for $2, I don't know how everybody else in the league missed $2 Moreno, and that was
because he was like the 3rd guy. Everybody was hearing Monty Ball and Ronnie Hillman.
Well, I mean, Moreno.
Why?
Me of all people should remember that Moreno was a beast at the end of last year because I started him in the damn championship game. So I don't know what
really
we
should have.
So, I mean, he's definitely got QB issues, and that's what's hurting him the most. But also, I don't know what to think about Lamar Miller. A couple weeks ago I said he's going to be fine. And then he puts up 1.5 points. I don't know what that's all about, especially in a game where the team won.
He didn't get the ball.
This was supposed to be a number 1 running back.
I'm sorry, they lost.
Lamar?
Yes. But per preseason hype, and the best he's done is 13.5.
Okay. Well, he was a number 2, not a number 1. But
so where I'm going to end up there is maybe you take Lamar Miller or Ridley, and you try to swap them. That's probably your best bet, one of those 2 guys, probably Lamar Miller.
For what?
But that's the thing. At this point, I'm not sure you're going to get as much.
He doesn't need a number 2 wide receiver.
Maybe Phillip Rivers?
I think you roll with Kaepernick. It's not going to be pretty, but I think you got to roll with Kaepernick.
If anybody was going to trade anyone for Phillip Rivers, this is the team that should and could do it, because they have people that are compelling on this team for a quarterback that might be at the high water mark.
I think if you're going to move anybody, I think you move Jordan Cameron. With Brandon Whedon the rest of the year in there, I think Cameron's the guy to move, and I think now's the time to do it. But I know that's controversial because but it's a sell high guy, right? I mean,
you got the highest price anyone is going to get for a tight end this whole season with Alfred Morris. That is the high water mark for tight end trades.
Maybe.
Jimmy Graham's not on the market.
The thing is, I don't know what you trade for, right? I mean, he's got this weird medley of running backs here. Maybe you package Cameron with one of your running backs for an upgrade at running back. You try to go for.
That's good. That could work.
Like that, but
I might even say,
But nobody
As
has
much-
running backs to give.
As much as I hate to say it, the Packers of this year are not the Packers of previous years, and people would still be stabbing themselves to get Randall Cobb. You could get some very serious value, particularly if you package a running back. You could get an elite player for a package like that.
Excuse me, guys. This
breaking
just
news.
in. Breaking news. Meryl, I'll let you read this one.
Oh, I gotta pull it up here. Hang on.
Since I just approved it.
What? Oh, really? Oh, snap!
The Sex Cannons.
Hey,
and
first time SFFL podcast ever live trade. Just
Live
wow, that's awesome.
the Sex Cannons and Dave's team have gotten together for a trade. Oh, this is awesome.
Dave
because
is making a trade? Holy shit,
I played
what is
Dave's
going
team
on
this week,
here?
so this is great. I was really hoping to play Eli Manning versus
Oh
the
my
Bears, but
god!
Dave gets Andrew Luck for Demarius Thomas. Which
Wow.
is, not bad. Not a bad deal.
not a bad deal for both guys.
No, two elite players. I mean, that's oof. And you know what? You don't know how long Demarius Thomas is going to be good. Like, if Peyton Manning retires, let's say he wins the Super Bowl and retires,
Yeah.
I mean, it could be a totally different Broncos next year, so I completely get that. But, whoa! That's
awesome.
a blockbuster.
That's awesome. I was really looking forward to playing Eli Manning versus the Bears this week, but now I get to play Andrew Luck, so
Nope.
that's going to be fun.
Nope.
Hey, so does
No,
this mean
put
we
up
have to go
30
back and do Evan's team again?
No.
All right.
He's playing the
He
Chargers.
made the move we said, right? Trade a quarterback, right?
Yeah. And he did it.
He did it. He must
You
be
were right.
watching
Wow.
live.
Seriously, yeah. Way to act fast, Evan.
All right, let's move on here to the Puppet Masters division. EBS is the first team here that we're going to go over.
You know what? I should restrict the trade window to only be during the podcast.
Yeah,
That'd be a great idea.
it's a good idea.
That'd be a frenzy.
All the time. That would be a feeding frenzy every time.
End Zone Bombardment Squad scores 106.8 points to beat Dad Dicks, who put up 99.5. They win due to a late Jaquiz Rogers touchdown, his second one of the day, and that put him to 17 points and gives
Second
them
one of the
victory.
year, Merrill.
Of the year, probably. Despite all of Anthony's complaining on Sunday, he still won.
There wasn't that
He
much.
goes to 5-2. You said you were, quote, distraught on Sunday, and you just
always
hated fantasy. You
distraught.
didn't get it, and you were going to lose, and Danny Grimes didn't deserve to win, even though he was going to. I
He's
remember this.
distraught if his poo doesn't come out in the
You
right
go to
shape.
5-2 on the year. He's tied for first place, but you are losing the tiebreaker currently to the Assassins by quite a big margin. Hillers, what do we think of Anthony's team here? He took some hits this week. Do we think he's going to get through them?
You know, every week the list of teams that I become distraught about trying to say, how good they are changes, and EBS has just now joined the list. You know what I mean? Because he does keep winning, but he didn't win by a ton, and he had a 25-point scoring defense, which was the highest scoring player on his team. And it's like, I just don't know. I mean, Reggie Wayne is his team's #1 receiver, and he's a good receiver, but he's not like an elite #1. You know what I mean? And you're starting Jaquiz Rogers, and you got him he scored 2 touchdowns last year. He also scored 2 touchdowns this week. You know what I mean? And who are you putting in instead of him? Bradshaw's done. Isaiah Peed? No, I don't think so. So it's like I'm not a true believer in this team. I think this is a team that, they can put up 100 points, but that means you could totally fade down the stretch.
Well, right now he's got to put in Roddy White instead of him because he's got Bernard and Lynch. But right now,
And
you
Julio
said
Jones being out for the season is a gigantic boon for Roddy White.
Well, except that he just hurt his hamstring, and he's going to be out maybe for a week or two. So this team could be in trouble. He did take some hits here. Let's see.
The Falcons are on
Owen
a bye
Daniels.
The Falcons are on a bye next week, and Roddy White's main problem is in all but one of his games this season, he hasn't gotten more than 4 targets.
Right. So that's the other issue. He hasn't really been healthy yet. But Anthony also loses Owen Daniels here for just about the rest of the season. So I'm sure he's got bids in on Garrett Graham like crazy to try to pick that guy up.
Kobe Fleener still available.
I don't want Kobe Fleener.
Yeah. There's only one person that trades for tight ends in this league, and so it's a little thin right now. You look at that bench; it's a little thin.
You got him.
But Anthony kind of perseveres always, right? I mean,
he does. He perseveres.
So, Anthony, what's going on in your mind when it comes to your team here?
All right. Well, I mean, the top three guys, Stafford and my two running backs, I'm not too worried about. Yeah, Giovanni Bernard had a bad week against the Pats in the rain. He lost a fumble, but I'm not worried about it. He's going to get his carries, and he's going to eclipse the law firm soon. I'm not worried about Wayne or Wallace, really. I mean, Wallace is kind of hit or miss. But what I'm really looking for is a wide receiver, too, that I can count on.
Mm-hmm.
And now probably a tight end. I'll tell you, I don't really believe in Garrett Graham too much. He's had some drops. Yeah, he's had a couple of touchdowns, but I think there's a couple better tight ends there on the waivers. But I don't know. I mean, I'd really like to get Marlon Brown back and have him do something, and maybe there's a couple other wide receivers in the waivers. I am very active in the trade market. I've been a little bit skittish here and there.
I think you missed your window on Jaquiz, man.
But I think I missed my window on it.
Well, how do you say that when he had his best
Because
week?
he's going on bye, and then Steven Jackson's coming back.
Yeah, perhaps. Perhaps.
I don't know. I don't have much to give.
I mean,
Although,
that's the thing. Like, you don't.
But if anyone on this team has potential for next year at the price they're at, it's him.
I agree with that.
Because who knows what happens with Steven Jackson next year? He's definitely on the tail end. And we might have a committee. We might even have him, if you're lucky, as a primary back next year.
Yeah, Anthony, I think the move you make, I don't think there's a trade out there for you. I think the move you make is you go all in on some waiver guys. I mean, there's some starters that are out there. This is a pretty good waiver week, and I think this is when you blow everything you have and try to pick up the guys you need because you don't have anything to really give up right now with the depth you have.
Well, everything except for Lynch is on the table right now.
Yeah.
Everything.
Right. Well, there you go.
Except for Lynch at any price.
Other side of things, we have the Dad Dicks who put up 99.5 points. They lose this game, go to 4-3, which puts them in third place in the division, one game back. Who knew? I think our division's turning out to be the strongest, which other than my team, of course. But the top three teams might be the best.
I don't want to send the messages to the people that quit, showing them the correct.
Danny Grimes put up a few comments last week about how he didn't know about Drew Brees having a bad matchup. He didn't understand what we were talking about. Well, I think Brees put up was it his lowest? Well,
23
lowest
points. It's not exactly a
year.
disaster.
No, but it's not what he needs to win, right? So we said when Brees and Graham play well, this team's going to win. Well, they played about average, and they scored about average because of that. This team scored average. So Anthony, is this basically what we thought was going to happen with Dad Dicks?
When you look at the top to bottom scores on the left side, on the Dad Dick side, and then you look at my scores on the right side, you kind of wonder how I came out on top on that.
Your defense.
Bills won. 49ers 25.
That's exactly how.
It is the defense. I mean, he put up 6 combined points on Nick Novak and the Bills D, and my kicker alone beat that.
Yep.
So
lucky he didn't screw around and start Tony Romo on the best week of his life.
Yeah. So I think Dad Dick's put up a great score, but you just maybe got to get a little bit luckier with your kicker defense.
We need to come up with a name for that. Like when your team, your like players score better than the other team, but you lose because of kicker and defense. There's got to be like
a name for that. Getting Merrill.
Yeah, well, that's what I've been.
We all have a name for it already, Mike. You're the last one to know. It's called getting Merrill.
But I mean, this is what we thought, right? I mean, Brees and Graham were okay. They weren't great, but they were okay, and he put up about an average score, and so he lost to a slightly higher score. I mean, that's what this team is, right, Hillers?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is, this was at the beginning of the season my championship pick, which, okay, I caved on that one, and Brian Caver doubled down.
Don't cave yet. He's 4-3.
But I'm still gonna take credit if he manages to get in there because he's right in the thick of it, and this team does pretty good. I mean, all he had to do was start the Bengals instead of the Bills. I mean, for something like that, in a game that's over 100 points for a victory, I'm never gonna panic. I mean, this team is really solid, and it's insanely solid in quarterback and tight end, where he probably has the best at both those positions. So, and, now that Danny Woodhead is starting to sort of emerge, and come out as a back that you can maybe count on as a starter.
Yeah. Ryan Matthews out with a concussion, too.
Yeah, at $1, I mean, things are panning out in the direction that he wants them to. Particularly, I was a little worried about Decker at the beginning of the season, but His targets have still been solid. He's never had a game where he's been targeted less than 7 times. So
what's the move? I mean, the move is to deal Romo, right? To deal Romo. I mean, the quarterback market just got smaller by 1, but you got to deal Romo, right?
How can you? I would say if you wanted maximum value, you talk about Johnson or McFadden.
I don't
for
think
a
they
package
give you maximum value.
with
Romo's
a replacement running back in it. But I mean, Chris Johnson had his best game of the year against Kansas City at 14 points. He's got Seattle, San Francisco, a bye week, and St. Louis coming up. I mean, I'm not thrilled about his chances there.
Anthony, what do you do here?
So I see the play in Romo there, but
he's never going to start him. He's never going to start him except on Breeze's bye week. Why would you have him? Why don't you get something that you're going to play every week?
This team needs a solid number 1 wide receiver. And
Tony Romo can get you that.
I think the Romo.
Andrew Luck just got Demaryius Thomas.
And
you don't think Romo can get that?
And meaning there's 2 teams left, and which one has a wide receiver worth it?
Well, I mean, Touchdown Jesus has got Cam Newton there on the bench, or in the starting position, which is even worse.
Yeah,
I don't know.
He likes Cam.
Yeah, but with Cam Newton, you're not going to give up a number 1. You're not going to give up Drew Brees.
So
you're not going to give up
one.
Calvin Johnson.
Here's my other play. My other play is, I think that Phillip Rivers might be at his peak, and therefore I think that Danny Woodhead is also at his peak. And maybe you try to do like a package of Woodhead and a guy like McFadden or Bell.
I like that.
Actually, I think
you get a number 1 wide receiver.
So maybe like a Woodhead and McFadden for a running back 1 or 2, or a wide receiver 1.
Brandon Marshall's on the block.
Yeah, but then you're dealing away 2 usable running backs, and what do you have left?
Yeah,
I would actually say something more like Woodhead maybe
the point
Hardline?
Is with Romo. With
maybe
Romo,
Hardline looks good.
You're not giving up anything when you give up Romo, right? 1 week of production is all you're giving up, right?
Yeah.
So that's the thing. Like, you're basically trading nothing for something you can use every week.
Yeah, but you got to have someone that needs that, and that market is very small. And those teams don't want to give up their number 1 wide receiver because
you sell them for 60 cents on the dollar. I mean, you take a wide receiver too. I mean, you have to, right? I mean,
you don't have to do that if you trade a guy like Johnson or like Hartline, where it's like you can still get great value. You don't ever want to trade 60 cents on the dollar.
Nobody wants Brian Hartline, and even fewer people want Darren McFadden.
I would love it. To have
what are you going to give up for Brian Hartline? Let's do this then. You want to do this? What are you giving up for Brian Hartline?
Let me take a look at my team.
Let's see what quality
Leonard
value you're
I'll give
giving
him.
up
Let's see, DeAndre Hopkins.
Oh yeah, okay.
And Colby Fleener.
Wow, how could he not do that? I think he'll just wait for Fleener to be on the waivers in a week. All right, let's move on.
It'll be Cook.
The next team we have here, the Assassins. They beat Feisty Goats 99 to 94.7. Go to 5-2, first place in the division, and they are solidly winning the tiebreaker. Hillers, you are scared of this team. Why?
I'm terribly scared of this team. I thought this team would be a ridiculous pushover, like always. And then I screwed around and gave them 2 top 15 wide receivers, and they go ahead and win a 100-point game with Tom Brady scores less than 5 points. This team is terrifying. It might be the best team in the league. That's where I have them right now. Honestly, in my power rankings, they're number 1 this week. I'm going to give it a spoiler because it's ridiculous. And if Reuben Randall actually can become the new Hakeem Nicks, this team now has...
He can't.
Oh, come on.
What?
Reuben Randall.
Doing well.
One good game
and one game.
When Adrian Peterson was on a bye. That's terrifying. This is a very scary team. Their starting lineup is ridiculous. Something bad needs to happen to the starting lineup for this not to be the scariest team anymore.
Hold on, Hillers, man. Calm it down. This is
calm down.
Merrill got Merrilled on this.
I did.
Because, I mean, look at this. 35 points. Justin Tucker, 18. Rams defense. Good. I dare you to start Rams defense one more time. I dare you. He doesn't even have it.
They got 20 points against. It's not like they killed somebody.
They did. 2 interceptions, fumble recovery, 2 sacks, and a defensive touchdown.
Okay, look. I will admit it was pretty ballsy because their previous 3 weeks, their points were 1,
It wasn't
negative
ballsy
1, and 1.
They were playing the Jaguars. It wasn't that ballsy.
No, that's true. The Jaguars are terrible. I mean, solid waiver defense
you're right,
strategy.
Anthony. He won this week, and yeah, I mean, that's what it is. I mean, look at his tight end, his kicker, and his defense, and that's like half his points this week, right? And 99 isn't that great a score. But then on the other hand, we keep saying about this team, well, when the bye weeks come and when injuries hit them, they're going to struggle. All right, well, Tom Brady had less than 5, and Adrian Peterson and Steven Jackson were out of his lineup.
Yeah, I no longer believe that.
Best players after the draft. Those were his 3 best. We're like, well, if those guys go down, he has nothing. Well, guess what? Those guys basically were non-existent this week, and he still won. Now, I'm not saying he won due to skill, but I'm saying there is some kind of luck on his side this year, and there's something has flipped on the luck switch for
Watson. The starting lineup is crazy. Tom Brady, Adrian Peterson, even without Steven Jackson are in there, it's like the trade he made for what we thought were number 2 wide receivers or not. The worst game he's had all season was 79.9, and he scored all of 1 touchdown in that game. And this team is terrifying. I'm terrified.
But the scary thing is when Brady starts playing better because he's getting Gronk back and Amendola's getting healthier, and then he gets Steven Jackson back and Adrian Peterson's done with his bye. That's when it gets a little scarier.
Yeah,
right,
I mean,
we
I'm
were
not
wrong.
afraid of...
Let's just all admit it.
Tom Brady's still the worst draft pick that occurred this year. He spent way too much money, and Tom Brady's has passed 20 points once this season.
Yeah, okay.
Still terrible.
Not a great value, but he's not a terrible quarterback either. I mean,
he's been below average this year.
He's not a good fantasy quarterback.
He's been quite below average, but like Mike said, once he starts getting the weapons back,
Anthony, is there a move you make?
Cam Newton had 3.7 points this week. Is he a bad quarterback? No, it's just mostly bad.
If you're Watson, I think you hold on because, like you said, I mean, Brady's probably going to do a little better with those guys coming back. I don't think you panic and make a trade for Brady. Your other guys are coming back. I just don't think that Watson right now has the depth on his team to make a trade for any kind of value.
Well,
so that means he'd have to give up.
But wait. I mean, he doesn't have anybody on his team where he can make a blockbuster trade. That doesn't mean that he can't upgrade his team. You know what I mean? If you've got a team that's on maybe a fire sale, okay, there are guys like, and let me just list a few guys on his team that he might package together for a slight upgrade, even if it's on his bench.
I can't wait to hear this.
Shane Vereen, Ruben Randall, Brandon Jacobs,
Ruben Randall,
Julian Edelman.
Ruben Randall is replacement level. He's waiver wire fodder.
Package 2 of these guys together for someone that's just slightly better than one.
Nobody's going to do that. It's a great idea, but nobody's doing that.
That's how you grow. That's how you grow. I mean, you take guys that are not as good, and you get one slightly better, and then hope to do better off the waiver wire and do it again. I mean, that's how teams claw their way to greatness. Although this team is terrifying, but it needs depth. So this is the kind of deal it needs to make.
So you're saying trade Shane Vereen, who's on his IR,
trade
Julian Edelman, who's going to be. Can I finish, please? Trade Shane Vereen, who's on IR. Trade Julian Edelman, who's going to be on the waivers in a few weeks now that Amendola is back. And who was the other one you had in there? Randall, who's had one good week this year.
Who are you going to get
trade
for
them? Who are you going to get for them?
And
they're all replacement level players.
Go and ask around. You'd be surprised.
He got picked up off the waivers last week. And
no one cares. People want the now.
No, they don't. Ask Anthony, who's been trying to trade Jacquizz Rodgers around. Nobody wants him.
Well, that was to the now. That was 4 days worth of
If Watson's going to make a trade, he's got to make it the other way. He's got to deal either Peterson or Brady and try to get 2 quality guys for him because he doesn't have the depth, like we said. He's got to do a 1 for 2 quality guys if he's going to make a trade.
I don't think
he makes
a trade. If I have Mendenhall,
right,
maybe I'm willing to trade a bench guy for Ellington. You know what I mean? It's like you got to pick your targets here. You got to pick people that need exactly that kind of thing, and then don't cost them anything they're going to care about. But it's still a slight move up. It's something that can be done. It's been done a million times.
Okay. Feisty Goats on the other side of this lose 99 to 94.7. Went into Monday night exactly tied. And it was Jason Snelling versus Matt Bryant, and Jason Snelling won that. I went into the week saying, as long as Jason Snelling doesn't score a touchdown, and sure enough, the first touchdown of the night is a shovel
Boom!
pass to Jason Snelling.
23 yards, one touchdown.
And then the Falcons decide to go for it 4 times on 4th down in the red zone.
Jesus.
And so my kicker didn't even attempt a field goal. So you can look at the loss here. Again, I got 30. My last 3 weeks, the kickers and defense combined that I played has been 43, 40, and 45. So. Not only that, but Brian Hoyer went down for me in the first quarter.
That's the bad luck you need to be blaming here, Merrill, because that looked like it might have been a
Brady
really solid move for
4.8,
you.
So.
But you know what? Shame on you also for starting a newly starting Browns running back or Browns quarterback over Russell Wilson.
Don't shame on me. There were plenty of good reasons to do it.
Shame on you.
First off, CBS was projecting Hoyer to score more. I know how you love CBS's projections. Secondly, Russell Wilson was playing the number one
defense. And I know
defense.
how you love to hate them. So why are you defending them now?
Can I finish, please? Russell Wilson was playing the number one scoring defense against quarterbacks. Russell Wilson had the fewest pass attempts of any qualifying quarterback in the league going into that week. And Brian Hoyer had been better in the previous 2 weeks than Russell Wilson. And he was playing the Bills, so it was a good matchup. Anyway. That's what happened to the Goats. Another frustrating week. Anthony, is there a move I can make here?
Well, it's tough because David Wilson might have been your best trade bait, and he's probably maybe out for the year now, or at least for a couple of games. I think it's not disclosed yet, but at least a couple of games, and he's your best trade bait.
Well, Julius Thomas was my best trade bait.
Okay, so great move, I think, this past week with the past 2 weeks actually in trades. I think that you've upgraded your team pretty nicely. And I still think maybe you can do a little bit more since you have Dwayne Bowe, Miles Austin, Percy Harvin.
Percy Harvin for sure, absolutely.
Down there. So
Percy Harvin's coming back this month. He ain't getting traded.
You can do a little bit more with those guys, and I don't know. I guess maybe you look for a running back. Or no, you just got Alfred Morris. I don't know. I mean, it seems like you're in pretty good shape. Maybe you package Russell Wilson and one of those wide receivers for an upgrading quarterback.
You're doing a good job, Merrill, ownership-wise. You are doing exactly what a team in your position needs to do. You told me this week that if you had had my schedule, that you would also be 5-2. And, what do you do with that? It's just you try to get more better people, and that's what you're doing. You're working on trades. You're packaging guys with good names, guys that people like. You know what I mean? And you're putting them out in the market there, and I have no doubt that you're going to be able to get something done here. I would strongly consider you to trade Percy Harvin now because I feel like his speculation value might be better than his actual value when he gets back.
But
just based on how Sidney Rice is doing and how well Marshawn Lynch is doing, I don't see them giving him a ton of run carries and throwing a ton to him as a number one wide receiver. So, but still, if you offered me Percy Harvin, I would try to make a deal with you very strongly.
But I have Harvin for $9, okay? And if he's going to be a wide receiver 1 down the road, I'm at 1-6 right now. I'm thinking keeper value at this point, and I can't trade a $9 potential number 1 wide receiver for, I don't know, 50 cents on the dollar at this point. I mean, let's all be honest here. I'm pretty much playing for next year. I've got a small shot at staying in it.
Then it's time to trade for Fitz.
Yeah, I mean, Fitzgerald's out there, but people don't. I've started shopping him today, and market's not good for him right now.
His numbers suck. You need for him to have a really good game.
But Mike, you can only keep 2 wide receivers here, and I see maybe 3 keepers on your team, and James Jones and Josh Gordon there. So
I'd rather keep Harvin than Jones long term, though.
All right, well, I will take Jones.
Well, Jones is old, but also much more consistent.
So yeah, anyway, I think whatever. Another bad luck week.
I mean, you got Merrill hard. Only you can do this.
Anyway, let's move on here. Dave's team is our next team here. What I wrote down will probably be irrelevant because of the trade he just made, but I can't wait till Andrew Luck puts up 35 on me this week.
It was that he needed a quarterback, right?
This is the crappiest divisional performance I can remember in a while here. Dave's team wins 74.2 to 55 over Touchdown Jesus. Goes to 5-2, tied for first, and winning the tiebreaker due to his absurd doubleheader performances. Hillers. Dave kind of made the move I think we all would have said he needed to make, dealing wide receiver depth from his strength at wide receiver for a weakness at quarterback.
Yeah.
What else do we think about Dave's
A week
team here?
ago, he had the two best wide receivers. He had an amazing waiver wire pickup, I think, in Austin Pettis, because I'm a Sam Bradford believer, and he's clearly the number one guy down there. And getting, the benefit of that, I think he would continue to be at least wide receiver 2 territory. And if he's not, he's still got Denarius Moore and Vernon Davis and all kinds of guys he could plug into that spot. And what he was really lacking was an elite quarterback. And now he's got one. I mean,
well, not elite, but a guy you can start every week and be confident.
Oh, okay. Yes, a clear starter and a guy that could be elite in the future.
Sure.
Okay? And this was a guy I was thinking I was going to trounce in our division, and we had some expectations about Dave's team. And even though he got extremely lucky by playing a 55-point team this week, with filling that gap, I don't see Victor Cruz putting up less than 5 points too often. I don't see Anquan Bolden putting up less than 3 points too often. Or either of his tight end. I mean, he started the wrong tight end this week. It's like if I was going to trade anyone on this team to answer our question about teams, it would be either Martellus Bennett or Vernon Davis, depending on what quality player you wanted back.
Yeah.
Their running back situation is a little weak, but they can obviously throw up the points. Anyway.
Anthony, Dave's had 2 good weeks, basically, which is beefing up his schedule, which has given him kind of, at least 4 of his 5 wins. This one he got lucky in. Do you think Dave's team is going to stick around, or do you think he's more of this kind of team?
He's done.
So give me my I'll give you my pre-trade opinion, and my pre-trade opinion is, man, this guy's really backed into like a good record kind of accidentally. And you want to talk about the luckiest team in the league. He is half a game over 500 in the breakdown. And it's funny because we've always said that Dave's team is like the ultimate 500 team. He could, because there was an odd number of games, he's only half a game over 500. But he is,
It's totally different this year, though. It used to be mediocre every week, and this year it's huge lows and huge highs.
Yeah, I mean, so he should be 3.5 and 3.5 should be his record, but in reality he's 5-2. So he's probably 1.5 games lucky, and this week being one of them.
Reminds me of an end zone bombardment championship team, or even a Sex Cannons championship team we saw not too long ago.
Or maybe your championship team. But moving on, I mean,
one or the other.
So A+ job by Dave in this by getting luck. Maybe now he is a legitimate contender because he's got plenty of guys on his bench he could plug in Thomas's absence. And let's face it, Thomas wasn't necessarily the best receiver on that Broncos team. Maybe I think Welker is. So
yeah, talent-wise maybe, but he wasn't featured as much as other guys.
That's right. So now he's gaining a huge upgrade in quarterback, and he's not really losing that much in any other position. So
great move. I'm shocked that he made it. It's not
a good move. I'm going to say it's not enough. I think this team is too boom or bust. I think, again, he's had 2 good weeks, which is.
You don't think he makes the wild card?
No. Andrew Luck's been fine. He hasn't been spectacular. He might be spectacular next year, or in years for years to come. But I don't think this is the year. I think the Colts are more of a running team, which is why they traded for Trent Richardson. I think they want to run the ball a lot more than they want to pass it. They want to save Andrew Luck. They don't want him throwing 50 times a game. I think he will be good, and I think he's a definite upgrade over Eli Manning and Andy Dalton. Don't get me wrong, but it's not enough of an upgrade for me to boost him up because 3 out of the 5 weeks he's put up really bad scores in this league.
So do you think he beats you this week, or do you think you win?
Oh, of course he beats me this week. I mean,
okay, so
me.
If that's the case, he goes to 6-2. You still think he's going to lose out after 6-2?
He could. Well, he could beat me and put up 70 points.
No, he needs 3 more wins. This team is a wild card team, I hope, and I hope not a divisional winner.
Yeah. Anyway, great move by Dave. I'm not sure who initiated that trade. Probably Evan. I think Dave's not much of a trade initiator, I don't think. But well done by Dave and by Evan. I mean, Evan did what he needed to do.
Honestly, yeah.
Yeah. So, all right, touchdown Jesus on the other side of this. Wow, what a disaster of a week for them.
What a screwed up team this is.
He puts up 55 points, goes to 3-4, ends his 3-game win streak to 3rd place, and he's 2 games back with 9 to go. Sunday morning, found out Calvin Johnson would be out for the day. Not sure he heard the news. Well, probably didn't hear the news. On the other hand, there
Doesn't seem like he heard it.
Wasn't really anybody he could have put in that would have changed things. He had nothing on his bench really. So, just a bad,
I would argue with that, Merrill. Sam Bradford had an excellent week with 27 points.
You wouldn't have started Sam Bradford. You were bailing on him last week, so let's not do that.
No, I was hesitant.
Bad week for Touchdown Jesus. Anthony, is there a move you would make here? I know you're not a fan of this team, talent-wise. What do you think needs to happen here?
Quick observation. Dave's team, he had an entire starting lineup on his bench, minus kicker and defense, and that starting lineup outscored his actual starting lineup, and he still won that game. Kind of funny.
Yep.
So TDJ. Oh God. Lo and behold, Cam Newton is exactly who I think he is.
Yeah, he's a bum, Merrill. He's a bum.
Let's not characterize him by 1 week.
I haven't. I've characterized him by.
You're right, Anthony. Preach.
Two plus seasons.
Yep.
And Ryan Matthews, I think I've said every single podcast that this guy is terrible.
Poison. He's poison.
And he proves that he is terrible.
Can we officially classify him as poison?
I think I can classify him as waiver wire fodder at this point.
Wow.
I don't know what I do. I don't know if he could do anything. When you look at his bench, when you look at TDJ's bench, there's not a single dude I would even want, except for maybe Sam Bradford, who's the best.
Merrill, you were saying, wow, let me enlighten you a little bit on Ryan Matthews.
Hillers, hold on a second. If you had to make a move, at this point, maybe you try to move one of your starting guys. Like, maybe you just kind of trade down. You do a split on a guy like Colston, and maybe you get a little bit more depth out of that. Maybe like a Colston for a bad RB2, like a Bilal Powell or something like that. I don't know.
Why would you do that though?
I'm not going to give him that.
Because who else? He doesn't even have another running back on his team.
Yeah, but Hiller just said he's not doing that. I mean, nobody's giving an RB2 for Marcus Colston. That's not happening.
A bad RB2.
Nobody's giving an RB2 period.
He was a good RB2 before last week, and even though his prospects now are not as great, I'm still not touching Colston. Come on.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what he can do.
If you're going to do that, you got to deal Forte or Dez. If you're going to do that,
go big.
Yeah. I mean, if there's a move to be made, that's the move. I don't know if that's the move I would make, but that's the move.
Go big for
if you're going to make a move, you got to think about dealing Dez, Calvin, or Forte, and try to get two quality guys in return for them.
Absolutely.
That's the move.
I agree 100%.
I don't necessarily endorse that move. There's some teams I don't think need to make moves. This team's in a bad way right now. They don't have an RB2 right now. Next week, if Matthews is out next week, they got to start Michael Bush, Monty Ball, or Rory Helu, unless they pick somebody up off waivers. So,
gross.
I think that TDJ's got a lot of money left over, or at least he's one of the teams that has some, and maybe it's time to just dump it on a guy like
Zach Stacy.
On Zach Stacy or Darrell Scott.
Dump it on Zach Stacy. No one's paying more than $15 for him.
Yeah, but I don't know what else you do.
He needs a starter. He needs somebody.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean you should just dump money at something that no one's going to bid on.
What else are you going to spend it on?
You can't carry it over to next year.
Now, he just had a bad week. I still think this is a good team. The Matthews injury kills him. I mean, he only had 2 running backs. He could not suffer that. And unfortunately, he didn't want Ryan Matthews. It was just, it got to that point in the draft where he was the only guy left, and he got caught in a bidding war and had to take him, So he knows what he's got with that. And so, Cam Newton is typically a better player in the second half. Hopefully he can hang on by then and make it close. And if Newton does what he did the past 2 years, then he can make up for a bad RB2, and especially with the wide receivers he has. So I still think this team...
It's not as bad as it looks. This is his worst week.
Yeah. Definitely.
By a lot.
Do you remember when Monty Ball was supposed to be good? Like, he was one of the rookies that everyone had their eye out for.
I didn't have an eye out for him.
But he's a guy that went for $21. And then you look at Le'Veon Bell, who was going to be out the first 6 weeks.
Okay, well, preseason hype aside...
He basically was out the first 6 weeks.
Preseason hype aside, this team was previous lowest score was 74 points, and other than that hasn't been below 100. It's not this bad a team.
It's
not
better
the
than
week.
Dave's team. This is
It's
a better
not-
team than Dave's team.
Well, I don't know if I'll go that
Based
far.
on
but-
scores week to week, if you take out doubleheaders, this team is better.
And also, start Sam Bradford more often. This
No,
guy's
you're
better
not
than Cam
starting.
Newton.
He played the Jaguars. Okay, let's slow
And
down a
he's
little
better
bit. on
than
Sam
Cam
Bradford.
Newton.
He's
I'm
not
sorry.
better than Cam
I'm
Newton.
sorry. It's a
Hey,
fact.
All right, let's bet on
Cam
the
Newton
podcast.
played-
What's the bet, Hillers?
Oh, vodka eyeball.
We're not
I'm
doing
not
a
putting vodka in
eyeball.
my eyeball. We talked about this.
All right, I'll take Cam Newton. You take Sam Bradford. The rest of the year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Total score. You say Sam Bradford sucks. I said
right.
he was worth $15.
Let's do
You
total
said no.
score. Let's do
Total
total score. then.
on what, the regular season?
16. Yeah, the whole regular season, 16 games.
16 games. Okay. What's the bet?
I don't know. We'll come up with something.
Naked podcast.
Bottle of liquor?
There is a bet. Yeah, bottle of liquor. That's fine.
Bottle of liquor. Okay.
All right.
$50 or under. All
All right, we got to move on.
Okay.
Hillers, you're the next team here. You beat Ween-yay and
I one
shameful
lucky
victory
son
of
of
the
a
week.
bitch.
Oh my God. Beats Ween-yay 69-62. If there's a week to play the Ween-yay, it's when you score 69 points.
69 points. The sexiest
So,
winning score of the season.
5-2 on the year now, tied for first place, but losing the tiebreaker in the division to Dave. Anthony,
I get him.
should Hillers be concerned about his team?
Do you even want to talk about it? This is like too depressing to even talk about.
It shouldn't.
Should have started Terrell Pryor.
It's a sad state of affairs, this whole thing. Hillers, even if you started Terrell Pryor, your score would be despicable.
It wouldn't be great, that's a fact.
I don't know. I mean, Hillers had kind of bum performances out of all of his dudes.
Everyone on the team, everyone underperformed at
No,
once.
not everybody, but most of them. And it all happened at once.
Yep.
I don't think it's a bad team. Now Amendola's back. I do think he made his team worse with the trade, personally, receiving Julius Thomas for Alfred Morris. But, who knows? Who knows?
Who knows? That's the one other thing I've learned is we don't know anything about fantasy football.
That's a fact. And Alfred Morris was like the 23rd best running back, and obviously I thought I could do great at tight end. I had high hopes for Jared Cook after week 1, but he wasn't getting it done. And I don't want to have a hole in my lineup, and that was a hole. So I felt like I've got 4 running backs.
Yep.
He was the worst one as of this week.
Hey, Hillary.
And I gave him up for the number 2 tight end, so I had a little bit of buyer's remorse, but I still think it was the main reason I had a problem is because last year I traded my Bradshaw for the likes of Kyle Rudolph, and it was a disaster.
Martellus Bennett.
Martellus Bennett, but the Colts are going to have, or the Broncos are going to have a historically amazing season, and I really believe that, and so fuck it.
Sure.
So,
who are we to
so-
say it's not going to happen?
So, Hillers, 2 years ago you traded away Trent Richardson for DeMarco Murray. How you feeling about that?
Fine.
I think you got to be feeling fine. I think you came out.
Fine. Yeah, the value with the and that's
It
what
was
I was
last
thinking.
year. It wasn't 2 years ago.
That was last year, and it was
It
the
was last
cash
year.
difference was the reason I did it. And last year their injury stuff didn't pan out, but it wouldn't have won me the championship anyway. And now I got a nice, cheap, good a running back as good as Trent Richardson for much cheaper, as long as he's healthy.
The last time we did a running back for RB trade, you gave me Matt Forte for Owen Daniels. Hillers, remember that?
Why?
And then last year you
what are you
traded.
screwing me here?
You traded away.
Ugh.
Who did you trade away for a tight end last year?
It was
Bradshaw.
it
You
was
said.
Bradshaw.
Why do I
for-
keep doing this? And I said, this year, I'm definitely not doing that. And what do I immediately do?
I think, trust me, it's fun to watch that Denver offense and know you got a piece of it. Let me tell you, it is fun.
He loves Julius Thomas.
so-
He targets him all the time.
I think, Hillers, I think you've still got a good team. I think it's a fluke week here. Very little touchdowns. I think Brandon Marshall is going to start scoring well for you, though. I don't know if you're concerned about that. And Reggie Bush was bad
and I
because
feel like an idiot for.
well, Calvin Johnson was out, and that's why I think Reggie Bush suffered a little bit. And Aaron Rodgers he had a below average week, which is
He had a
weird for him.
touchdown call back.
Yeah.
It would have been another 6 points, and a 23-point game is fine. That's about average, right?
Yeah.
So it's like.
Yeah.
I feel like it was a shitty week, but I can't complain. I played one of the worst teams in the league, and I won anyway, so whatever.
Yeah, I don't think. I think the move to be made, you already made. I don't think there's. I mean, maybe if there's a way you can get another receiver, but you traded from a strength for a weakness, which is what you want to do in fantasy. Maybe you paid too much. Maybe you didn't. I mean, who's to say?
Who knows? I don't know.
Yeah. Our final team here, the Ween-yay. They unfortunately don't crush 70 points for the third week in a row here.
What a crappy.
They put up 62.1. They fall to 2-5 in last place, 3 games back. Hillers, is this the worst team we've ever had in our league?
We've ever had?
No, it's not.
Says the host with 2 wins from last season.
I scored more points than this.
Yes, you did. The only good things this team has going for it are Eagles. And the NFC East is the worst. So it's bad. It's a real bad team. And they're 12 in my power. They're bad. They're real bad.
Yeah.
Daryl Richardson sucks. He's terrible. LeGarrette Blount, that's not a starting player.
No, it's not.
That's not someone you start. Eddie Royal, that's a hope and a prayer. Tavon Austin, nope, it's Austin Pettis. I mean, it's both iffy planning and terrible luck, which makes for the worst teams. And this is, if I'm scoring 69 and beating them, bad team.
Anthony, you said it's not the worst?
It's not the worst team we've ever seen.
Who is?
I mean, I think that when I entered the league and drafted Gates, I drafted the New England defense second overall. I think that was probably the worst team.
Yeah.
Well,
Watson had 3 wins.
It was
that
really
year,
about the 5th
Anthony.
round when you did that, though, because we had 3 rounds.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so in any case, this team is bad, but it's not the worst. I think their luck might start changing.
Is it the worst this season?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is the worst team. This is clearly the worst team in the league.
I hope you're tuning in here, Andy. I know you were anxious to do so.
Anthony, what move does he make?
All right.
I mean, is there a move
so
to
he
make?
gets Gronk back this week, and I think that's going to make a huge difference. I mean, it's going to go from 0 to probably 12-point difference.
Yeah.
Probably every week. So and then I think -3 from a defense is not normal. So let's say you put another 5 points in there. Now you're looking at an 82-point team. That's all good. So what move do you make?
T.Y. Hilton.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about T.Y. Hilton necessarily, but...
Yeah, 2-touchdown game. Hadn't had more than 12 points on the rest of the season.
You're not going to get anything for him.
Yeah, you're right. What are you going to get?
What are you
going to get out of any of these?
I think he's got a lot of... And when I say depth, it's guys that could do something but have not yet, like T.Y. Hilton, like Tavon Austin, like Eddie Royal. You have a lot of those guys, and maybe you package them for something a little bit more solid if you can pull it. But I'm not sure you can.
I think you gotta wait.
I think here it's the same as with like Pritchard or anybody else. Yeah. If you're gonna do anything on this team, you deal McCoy or you deal Gronk, and you try to get.
What about Jackson?
2 quality players. If you can get 2 for Jackson, a lot of people aren't buying into Jackson yet. I mean, when you look at this team, you have to look at this team and think, what would I want? And there's very little that anybody would look at this team and say, that's someone I would give up 2 quality players for.
You look at a team and you say, I want 2 Eagles that are like
LaShawn
2 and 3.
LaShawn McCoy is a player like that, and maybe Gronk if he has a good week coming back, if he has a good week 1, maybe you deal him. But, right now this team, I mean, he's doing the quarterback shuffle. Alex Smith had been great, and then he plugs him in, and then he just lets him down. And he sits Jay Cutler, and Cutler has a big week, and so he's probably going to switch it again this week, and who knows how it's going to turn out. I mean, this is the problem with doing that, not having that defined number 1 quarterback that you run into.
So Mike, when dynasty leagues need team, in order to be successful in dynasty league, you need to have at least 1 player that you got early, is cheap, and you ride him out for like that person's
the
entire
whole season.
career.
Right.
No, that player's maybe
a franchise
career.
player.
A franchise player. And if McCoy and Gronk are this team's franchise player, and there's nothing else that's even close at all on this team. So I think that maybe what you do is you stick with those guys. What I would do is I would stick with those guys, knowing you're going to lose. Maybe you try to make a couple of trades for some value, and you play for next year. At this point.
Here's what I would do.
What if you can deal LaShawn McCoy for
Tony
Romo and Chris Johnson?
No.
Do you do that?
No, never.
That's the kind of move we're talking about, right?
It's the number 2 running back in the league. No. Tony Romo just had the game of his life. You can't freak out.
And so we're talking about giving up on this year, basically, right? I mean,
yes, but what you need to do is wait for the trade deadline because he has a lot of guys with future potential. And what you want to do is wait till someone with decent players has blown their season and don't care anymore and try to package two guys that you don't believe in for maybe one guy that you do believe in. And they're both going to be crummy for this season, but maybe if you're thinking 6 weeks ahead, that's where you can get some value. And that's the best thing you do.
So Mike, a guy like Romo, yeah, I mean, I think that Romo might be a keeper at $18 next year. Might be. I don't really know.
That's about what he'll go for, you know.
So if that's what he goes for, then why try to nab him now, especially if you're playing for next year? And then the guy like Chris Johnson,
because you're not done this year yet.
Chris Johnson's gonna be 29 next year.
He's touching on done at 2-5. He has 2 more losses.
He's not done yet. We've seen teams come back from this.
With Cutler and Hilton, and buys, and he's got guys in week 10, even week 12. LaShawn McCoy and Deshaun Jackson are out in week 12. That's a loss for this team.
Maybe, unless he deals McCoy. I mean, we've seen teams give up too early, and
that's true.
Don't give up too early. You never know. We don't know anything. We might come back next week and say, "Wow, this team's amazing." Like, who knows? Like,
we are very inconsistent.
This team, I don't know. Trust me, as somebody who's been there every year, you don't want to give up on the season in week 5. You just don't. You want to hold out hope and try to say there's a move I can make that's going to get me 6 wins out of 7 games, and put me right back in.
Well, that was the point of our new segment, right?
Yeah.
Who to trade? So predictions?
Yeah. No, power rankings. Let's get
power rankings.
So Andy, by the way, Andy, sorry for that. I don't think you're the worst team this league's ever seen. I'm not sure who is, but we've had some bad
Watson.
ones. And
Watson's been the worst team for like 4 or 5 years.
Well, I'm not worse.
That's
than
a lot of history.
But Andy, you've had a rough run of it, man, and I think when Gronk comes back, it's going to get better. So, all right, power rankings. I'll go first this week, and then we'll go Anthony and Hillers. So 12-7 here. I've got the Ween-yay 12. Until they get over 70 points, I can't put them anywhere else. Feisty goes at 11. I have Dave at 10. PBJ at 9. He put up 74 points. That doesn't change my mind on it.
Well, this is pre-trade power ranking, right?
It wouldn't change it. PBJ at 9.
That's rough.
I have EBS at 8, and the Light Sabertooth Tigers at 7. Anthony.
Okay. I have the Ween-yay Masters of Elegance at 12. I have TDJ at 11. I have the Goats at 10. At 9, PBJ. 8 is the Tigers, and 7 is the Duplex. Pre-trade.
Appreciate it. Would he be much further up?
No, he may jump 1, but I'm going to keep him at 7.
1 spot. All right, I've got Ween-yay at 12, Goats at 11. That's pretty consistent across the league. I got Tigers at 10, PBJ at 9, TDJ at 8, and Chupanibres at 7. As much as I hate to put him that low, I like him, but it's a close league.
It is. That's what I was saying. Like that 3 to 9 or 3 to 8 range is.
It sucks. I never know what to do. We're all so close.
I mean,
it's going to change week to week.
It's me and Ween-yay at the bottom. Brett not too far behind. I feel like at this point, and then it's like
right.
Who knows?
Like JD has gone 6-4, 6-7. I mean, I was like, what the hell is that?
Yeah. All right. At number 6, I've got TDJ. They dropped a lot for me this week, mainly because of the Matthews injury, and he lost his RB2. At 5, Chupanibres, most consistent team in the league. Totally. At 4, I've got the Dad Dicks. At 3, I've got the Sex Cannons, 2 relying on 1 player. At 2, I have the Assassins, which they jumped a little bit. And at 1, I've still got you, Hillers.
All right. Wow. At 6, I have the Chupa. 6 is the Knee Brace. 5 is EBS. 4 is Hillers. 3 is the Dad Dicks. 2 is Assassins. 1 is the Cannons.
Wow. The Cannons might change a little bit now that they got Demaryius Thomas. That might change their rankings a little for me.
Yeah, the week 7 to 9 will be an interesting time.
I might put them above Assassins.
That little live chart you've got where people move is going to start getting a little frisky.
I like watching Dave's team on that. Dave's team is all over the place.
It's just bouncing around like crazy town, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so at 6, I've got EBS. At 5, I've got the Cannons. At well, they're moving up again. You know, I don't like to make drastic things unless I feel like I was really wrong, right? At 4, I've got Dad Dicks. At 3, the Duplex, who I think have been underestimated.
Wow.
At 2, myself, and at 1, Assassins.
I think this is like one of the first times we've all three had different number ones. I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to me that Assassins are the number 1 team in the league. I never thought I'd say that in my whole life.
Yeah. All right. Predictions. Let's crank through this here. Divisional week. Oh no, not a divisional week coming up. So teams can make a little headway maybe in the division here if 3 teams lose. At least that's what I'm grasping. The Goats versus Dave. I got to pick myself just because I got to have some kind of hope here. I don't know. I just.
Well, it's a little tricky because we can't see your lineup here for next week, with your illegal-ass lineup. So I'm going to go ahead and pick Dave.
Yeah.
I gotta go with Dave, getting Andrew Luck in there, and
it's not going to be fun for you.
I think that he's going to put Vernon Davis in as opposed to Martellus Bennett. I think, which would make it even more skewed to Dave.
Oh, Bennett has a better matchup by far. Why would
he's injured. But he's injured.
Oh, is he not playing?
He's questionable, I think.
Okay.
Limited. Also, Denver versus Jacksonville could potentially be bad.
Who does Dave have on Denver?
Yeah.
He's got the defense.
Oh, yeah,
against
of
Jacksonville.
course. Yeah.
So
this is 30-point D. You're going to get Merrill again, Merrill.
You're going to get Merrill again.
Merrill, this is your 4th week in a row playing against the team that is playing against Jacksonville.
I think it might be.
Oh, my God.
You're just following Jacksonville down the calendar to get Merrill every week.
How frustrating it is. I mean.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Anyway, next game.
Dad Dicks at TDJ.
That's uncanny.
It's really you couldn't have planned it.
Always, that's us, the Goats. Always finding new ways to lose. Or we stick with old ways sometimes because they're just so good. TDJ, I'm going to pick TDJ in this. I think Cam has a big comeback game against Minnesota.
Come on.
We saw what Brian Hoyer did to that Minnesota secondary with Josh Gordon, so I think they come back. And Des Bryant versus Washington, I think that's going to be a big game for Des.
Who is the RB2 here? How can TDJ win? This is Dad Dicks all the way.
He can't even start Ryan Matthews.
This is Dad Dicks all the way. New Orleans and New England is going to be some crazy ass shootout.
It's at New England, right? So it's not in the Dome. So
Jimmy Breeze is going nuts. Bengals at Buffalo. The Bengals defense is going to go nuts against E.J. Manuel's backup, that rookie kid.
No, backup to the backup.
Backup to the backup. And Eric Decker versus Jacksonville. Dude, TDJ is going to get crushed and by 700 points.
I concur with David.
I'll take the under.
It's not going to be close, and if any running back could really put up potentially points against Seattle, it's probably going to be Chris Johnson, who basically just get giant runs, and that's it. So no, Dad Dicks by a lot.
Okay. Assassins versus the Sex Cannons here. Big matchup.
Crazy!
Current powers, I guess.
Yes! Current powers!
Peyton Manning versus Jacksonville. I can't really look past that. I'm going to pick the Cannons here.
So this is, if any week, that Peyton is going to get pulled at the half. Easy.
Yeah.
Why keep him in there unless he's...
They're going to bench him!
Yeah, but he might have 4 touchdowns by then, too.
But he might have 4 touchdowns. And also the Andre Ellington there at the RB2 position for Assassins is a little bit worrisome, especially against a team as stacked as Sex Cannons, so Cannons all the way.
Doesn't he get Peterson back?
No, but Jackson's still out, remember.
Oh, okay. Wow, he still only has... Yeah, that's right. That's who I lost to. Yeah, never mind. Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
All this team needs to do is get a defense off the waivers that's not the Rams versus Houston, and I'm going to take them in an upset. I can't put them number 1 in the power rankings and say they're going to lose. I think Assassins takes this one with a couple of over-performances on his end and a couple of under-performances, particularly Ray Rice against Green Bay. I mean, 16 points seems like kind of a lot. So.
Okay. EBS versus the Choop. I'm going to take the Chupa Brace. As bad as things have been going, he's got to start Matt Schaub, unfortunately, this week. But as bad as things have been going for Matt Schaub, he gets to play St. Louis this week. and I think he's going to have a huge bounce back game. Matt Schaub, 25 points, more than 25 points this week. Put it down, and I think the knee brace wins. Sorry, Anthony. But
It's okay.
You've taken a few hits, and I don't think you're a bad team. I just think right now you're struggling. It might change depending on how waivers go tonight.
Yeah.
It's definitely going to change. JD doesn't have a tight end starting right now. He's got 2 of them on a bye, and it's a 1-point game.
Replace tight ends.
Yes, you can. Colby Fleener is available for trades. Call me, JD. But I think he can manage to pull away with this one. I think the Choop is just amazingly consistent, and I feel like they have a better chance of getting solid points from everybody, given the matchups and the players that Anthony has, where there's only a couple where I'm like very confident that they're going to put up what they're saying here. So.
I think my only chance of winning is if I have a bomb week, and because I don't see Choop having a bomb week, but I see him having a consistent week, and unless I put up 95 plus, I don't think I can beat him. So
this might be a 95 to 94 point game. I mean, this might be the closest prediction I've ever seen.
You've got to start Marlon Brown and Aaron Dobson this week.
I have to. I have nobody else.
Wow,
that's rough.
I have quite a bit of money out on the waiver pool right now.
On the plus side, the 49ers are going to put up 25 points for you again, so that'll work out.
I hope so.
Hillers versus PBJ. PBJ coming off a big week. Hillers coming off not so big a week.
Yeah, just terrible.
Looks like PBJ is going with Phillip Rivers versus Indy at quarterback here.
I know I would.
I'm going to take PBJ, and Arian Foster is going to come out angry against you, Hillers. The St. Louis
him and all his works.
Playing against the St. Louis Rams, who MJD just ran for 86 yards against. I'm taking, and he's just got great matchups. Doug Martin versus Philly. Justin Blackmon, tons of garbage time against Denver. Alshon Jeffrey versus the Giants. These are great matchups for PBJ. I'm taking them.
That's what bothers me, is his matchups.
Okay, so I will also take PBJ on matchups, on some revenge factor for the Foster bashing, and frankly, Hillers, you deserve a loss.
Foster sucks. I don't deserve a loss. Everybody gets a lucky
points.
Everybody gets a lucky win, except
not
for you,
everybody.
Earl. Except for you. Everyone does that at some time, and they never say, "Oh, they ain't got it coming. They're the worst." You know what I mean? It's just I got a lucky win. Having said that, I do deserve a loss, and I'm probably going to get one this week. So I'm going to take PBJ.
Final game of the week. Let's bring it home here, boys. Probably, unfortunately, our least interesting game of the week anyway. Lightsaber Tooth Tigers versus the Ween-yay Masters of Elegance.
Way to finish with the bang, Merrill.
Wow. Okay.
Caleb Sturgis.
I can't pick the Ween-yay.
No, you can't.
Until they break 70 points again. I'm sorry, Andy, but I just can't pick you, man. You're having a rough stretch here. I don't think it's a bad team, and I do think it's a bad team. But
it's a bad team. What do you mean you don't think?
I don't think you're a bad owner. I just think you got a bad break, some bad breaks here. So I'm taking Tigers.
This is the week that Ween-yay surprises us with 100 points. And we're going to be like, oh, we don't know who this team is anymore because it'll be 100 points again.
I still know, even if they put up 100.
Cutler's going to thrash the Giants.
That he will.
And Gronk is going to be back, and he's going to Gronk smash like every 5 feet. I mean, he's coming back at home against the Saints. He's going to catch like 30 touchdowns.
No,
it's Ween-yay all the way.
No, Gronk is not back. And this team is terrible. And until you put up over 80 points, you're never going to be chosen. Tigers.
What do you mean Gronk is not back?
I don't think he's going to come back this week.
Wow. Okay.
They say he's day-to-day. I don't want to jeopardize a guy like that.
That newsmaker says it's day-to-day. Everyone else is reporting that he is going to play. But, okay.
Yeah, like Belichick's going to tell you.
Well, it's not Belichick that's saying it. All right. All right, well, let's end it there, guys. Are you happy? Happy Leif Erikson Day to you guys, and Moldy Cheese Day as well. And
boy, did you guys see the hair on Jordan Cameron there? He's styling.
Keep those mid-podcast trades coming, everybody.
Yeah, that was exciting. That was exciting stuff.
Yeah, that was big.
Right.
I'm shrinking the window. It's now Wednesdays from 9 to 10.
For Anthony and Hillers, this is Mike saying we will see you guys later.